Yes. So I'm gonna let's. I don't know you or your platform or anything like that. So yeah, because my okay. So here's my thing. The I don't know you. That's what I'm trying to do right now. So I don't know you and I don't know your history. Can you hear me? And my thing is like you may have had completely good intentions. You may have been speaking in a manner what you said in a way that was like in a vacuum. And like I know people think like that sometimes. Pain of Tales of Kenzerazel, but this okay, sorry, where did it cut out? So can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Basically, that the statement that the game wasn't what the mainstream like media or demographic of gamers wanted. And so like that statement on its own is actually true. So I'm not even going to dispute that part. But if the statement was being made in a vacuum and it wasn't on the heels of multiple campaigns against games that had a diverse protagonist for one reason or another, and if the campaigns hadn't been disingenuous about their complaints,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't have seemed as pointed as it was. And the reason I came back at you like I did is because this isn't about you. This is about when black people, not just black people, when people in America experience racism, there's often the like response, just ignore it. And it's like that's convenient, but when it's constant and you can't escape it, it's literally impossible
I'd
to
like to
ignore. So
I'd like
that's
to
where
clarify that for a sec though. You know, it's more of it's on the internet. You're
when
a
I did that,
no, you're a
that was
big he's like a bigger presence online. He has 30K followers or whatever. My point there
right.
is that regardless of, what you say to people, there's always going to be that contingent that is going to come out there and they're going to troll you, they're going to say horrible things to you. There's not much you can do about it. So my point was, you either have to like learn to deal with it or you have to block it out. I mean, you could just engage in arguments with them all day long as well. That's an option too. But in the end, you can't just make them disappear. They're always going to be there in some form. So focusing on that harassment when there's a larger conversation going on with all of the the diversity in media, the Sweet Baby Inc., all that other stuff. I don't know how much you know about all of that because we're encountering each other for the first time here. But all of that has
No,
kind
I have no
of
idea, to be honest.
okay.
Like the Sweet Baby Inc. That's
All
new
of
to me,
that's a
so I don't know.
consulting company that has been involved with a lot of games lately, and they've sort of come under fire for their mission statement, which is basically the diversity, equity, inclusion. Um, we don't have to go into that too much, but
Please,
apparently,
please can we go into that because I encountered a white person that used diversity, equity, and inclusion correctly yesterday. So I don't want to dance around this discussion, because that's the crux of this issue, is because some people use it as a dog whistle and some people accurately use it sometimes. The problem becomes when those two are impossible to tell apart. Now, when somebody's using DEI as a dog whistle, it's not actually a valid claim. But somebody's
By
using,
that, do you mean a situation wherein anybody who happens to be black or some sort of minority is instantly called that?
yes, of
Okay,
course.
sure, sure.
That's the dog whistle version.
All right,
That's the dog whistle version. But the problem is there are people who are hired in positions. We used to call it nepotism, but now
Sure.
it's taken different forms. And the problem becomes when you look at the actual distribution of DEI, it's like white women get the most benefit of diversity, equity,
I've heard
and inclusion
that before.
hires.
I've heard that before, and I'm not
It's not
necessarily
that-
contesting it. But don't you think that part of that reason is because the proportions of the populations that we're speaking to?
No, it's not. It has not. The whole.
Well, listen. If black people make up 13%,
Hold on.
wouldn't it just stand to
Look,
reason?
No, it doesn't, because the problem is this is when people,
To be
who
perfectly clear,
haven't-
I don't want white women to benefit either. Just to put that out there.
No, the thing is, I do want white women to benefit. The problem is when people make it seem like black people are disproportionately benefiting from DEI and overlooking the fact that white women benefit more than black people. That's when it becomes a disingenuous discussion of DEI, because the problem is when DEI gets applied to white women, it's not always poor white women who actually need it. A lot of times it's rich white women who come in and take jobs like, for example, there'll be a job like overseeing an African American studies department. A lot of times a white woman will come in and get that job, and then when you look at her credentials, there will have been a black candidate who has more qualifications, but because the white woman has one or two Ivy League schools on her resume, she might end up getting that job over an actual black person with a longer CV. And so that's where it's like, when people attack DEI as if black people are then just waltzing, like, it's funny when people make it seem like I could just get a doctorate and they're just going to be like, oh, this guy's black, let me hand him this doctorate, as if they're not trying
I'm just
to
kind
preserve.
of being an ass because you're like throwing out those
I
things.
know. I know you don't really mean that, and I know I'm attacking that notion that like people can just walk in, because the thing is, let me real quick. I've seen white women get kicked out of Harvard, and it's not like even rich white women don't just make it through at the highest levels of academia. You can get in the door, you can get through, but they're not just going to give doctorates to rich people. They're not just going to give doctorates to black people. They're not just going to give them to white women, and that's not how the institutions work. So when people say that about the actual degrees, it's twice as funny to me, because that's definitely not how it works. It's like I can't, when I'm saying that's not how statistics work, that's because I did a doctorate level statistics course that made me cry because it was so hard. I have no shame admitting that I cried over a statistics course. But this is when a lot of statistics being presented in America are numbers abuse, because you can't really generalize outside of a laboratory, or in the sense of you can look at correlation, but you can't determine causation in the real world. So when we're talking about 13% of the population being black people, one would assume that the numbers should cause only 13% of applicants to college to be black. It kind of correlates with that, but that's not how causation works in the real world. So this is where, like, even with the statistical understanding that there's only 13% of the black population, or the
You cut out again.
black to match in colleges is like it's like a misstep in logic. It's understandable to make that step, but that's an actual misstep. And the main thing is there's a lot of poor white people, and they get overlooked when this discussion gets focused on black people. There's like over 40 million poor white people in this country right now, or something like that, where it's like they should actually be included in DEI, but because it gets so convoluted, then it's made to seem as if it's only about race, but it is actually including socioeconomics. So poor white people do get boosts into college in ways that they didn't before because of DEI.
That would be the
but that's not how it's
portion,
framed.
wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
okay,
And
well,
inclusion.
Right. But
and
there's
inclusion.
I think we're getting a little off into the weeds here just because it.
No, I think we had to establish some baselines because we can't just wade into why you're commenting on this.
That's not it. It's just what exactly does that have to do with my initial statement, which was just that I don't necessarily think that the game itself, good or bad, I don't know, haven't played it, is necessarily appealing to like a large demographic of gamers.
So, do you know anything about the game?
And then
do you know anything
guy,
about the game? Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm trying to speak, though, because I haven't been able to speak much.
Let me ask you, do you know anything about the game?
I know...
At all?
A little bit, not much. Like I said.
Okay, can I explain something to you real quick?
Haven't insulted the game either.
Huh?
I said I haven't insulted the game either, but I've had a lot of people. I have a lot of people in the replies acting like
I'm trying to get,
spit on their grandmother's grave or something, and that's just not the case.
No, and here's the problem. So if you didn't know that Abubakar Salim he funded the game himself, so it wasn't like they came and were like, let's do this game with this guy. He funded the game and he got the studio off the ground. And so the game itself is a story about loss, and he made the game because
I know that part. Yeah.
Well, he made the game to explore the emotions that he felt when his father died. So this game is his catharsis and him creating this piece of art to dedicate to his father in the wake of his father dying. So that's the
fine,
background
and I can
for
understand
the game.
why he would, feel very personal when it comes to this subject.
No, it's not about being personal. It's not about being personal. That's a very niche subject. It's not a mainstream subject. The story being about his father dying and dealing with that by fault makes it like this isn't like a mainstream story. Even though Bambi, the mom dies in the first scene, it's like death of parents isn't something that mainstream stories really handle. When Optimus Prime got killed off in the original Transformers movie, it caused waves across the nation. So when we're talking about mainstream, death as like the main subject just isn't really a mainstream subject in the first place. So if it came from that angle where it's like, yeah, this wasn't going to appeal to a mainstream demographic because of that, then it's absolutely on point. But because the arguments have been about the protagonist and being black and it being like a DEI story, that's why I had a problem with that post in the moment. So again, that's where I'm like, if it was in a vacuum and you came out of...
You cut out real quick again there.
I
heard the vacuum part.
Like if there had been no history of black protagonists in games having reviews give incomplete and inadequate pictures of the game or inadequate pictures of the creation as if they gave it a real chance when you yourself just said you haven't played the game, which is like, that's fine. But I'm like, if you hadn't played the game and then you're coming out and you're like, this isn't a game for mainstream, even though you don't really know what it's about.
Well, not playing the game and not knowing what it's about are two different things. I have an idea of what it's about just from the discussion that's been going around.
but then saying, if you knew what it was truly about, and then saying the mainstream really doesn't want this, but not including why they don't want this, because it's not mainstream because of the subject matter, not because of the gameplay is really awesome. It's a really awesome Metroidvania. So I'm like, if you haven't played it, the gameplay is really good. It's really smooth. It's really optimized. Like the storyline's woven in well. So it's like the things that a game needs to do, it does well for a platformer, for a Metroidvania. It does all of those things well. Even the mechanic of when you die, it doesn't take you all the way back to the beginning. That's one of the things that in roguelites, it really annoys me, but I get used to it. So the fact that it didn't do this.
I think, yeah, it cut out again.
Its story or its mechanics,
I think
it's just annoying.
It should be mentioned that the reason that it's been conflated with the whole DEI thing is also because of the involvement of that Sweet Baby Inc. company, which, you know, I haven't looked into the entire background about, but apparently the developer started a company with them or something like that, so they, you know, they're at least on friendly terms. So obviously when that is getting backlash, there might be things that are completely removed from it getting clipped in the crossfire, and that kind of speaks to my point, which has been, people have been saying that, you know, these racial initiatives and whatnot are not a good thing, because one of the reasons is the assumption will then become that anything that includes, you know, this, that, or the other that you can throw into there is going to be conflated with these initiatives, even if it doesn't necessarily fit that bill. And to me, that is one of the major problems.
I mean, I think that's a legitimate problem, but it's not because diversity, equity, and initiative and inclusiveness programs are inherently bad. It's because people have literally made a campaign to conflate the notion of what diversity, equity, and inclusion actually stands for versus the idea of nepotism, which is why when affirmative action got removed, it started disproportionately affecting people who weren't legacy hired or legacy applicants. So it's like there's a generation of black people now who've been into a bunch of colleges so they can get legacy admissions. There's a bunch of white people who didn't have previous generations in a college, so they can't get legacy admissions. They were conflating that with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Meanwhile, it was the legacy admissions that were the real problem. So when DEI got blamed for a legacy admission problem and affirmative action got taken away, the poor white people still didn't get in. And that's what happened. So it's like, this is why when people are allowed or able to misrepresent things that have specific concepts and specific goals, and in the process the people who don't know those things then run with the misrepresentations, like, yeah, we have two different terms for what DEI means. There's a correct one and then the wrong one, and the people who use it as a dog whistle, they obviously use the term as a dog whistle, but that's not what DEI means. It's not meant to just let black people in because we're black, or let somebody who's not white in because they're not white. Like, that's the idea. That's what affirmative action or DEI ever was. Is it's hilarious to me, because now it's like hurting white people more than anybody. And so it's like, you can't cut off your nose to spite your face. And this is one of those things where, like, poor white people listening to rich white people's propaganda about non-white people is like, it's wild to see. But also, like, when dog whistles get brought into the conversation, and there's also people who aren't racist, because here's the thing, the fact that you wanted to get on the call with me, I know you're not racist. I know deep down I wouldn't get on the call with you if I thought you were actually racist. The reason I spammed the fuck out of your comments, the reason I did that is to prove you can't ignore that shit. That's all I was doing. And
What
again,
do you
I don't
mean
even
you
think
can't
you
ignore it, though? I could ignore it. It's just fun to engage with it because it's very silly.
was doing. Even you couldn't ignore it. That's why we're on the call now. The issue is the way I was doing it. It was calculated so that I was only saying
I understand the attempt. I get it. But this is not some
No,
like
that's why.
4D
Bro, that's why
chess.
we're on the. Don't act like that's not. Don't act like that's not why we're on the call right now. Stop. Stop.
Why
stop.
not?
Stop. Because that's why we're on the call right now.
We're on the
so
call.
don't act like that's not why we're on the call right now. You wouldn't want to talk to me if I hadn't spammed the shit out of you to make you understand that when somebody spams the shit out of you, you can't just fucking ignore it.
Yes, you can.
Because
I
all
could
this
have.
is
I could have
internet.
clicked
You
mute.
can't just, no,
I
you-
could have clicked
no,
mute.
you couldn't.
Yes, I could.
No, you couldn't.
It's an option. Are you kidding? It's an option on Twitter. It's a feature. I have accounts muted on there that I don't talk to. You absolutely can. And I encourage people to do it. This for me though, I mean, this is entertainment. It's entertainment for me. It's entertainment for people that want to watch it, and it also gets into instead of spamming, it gets into an actual talk about what the issue is here.
But that's why. But you're trying to deny the fact that I did this intellectual exercise of spamming you to prove that you can't.
Intellectual exercise. Please don't do this.
No, I have 2 master's degrees and a fucking doctorate.
Okay, good
I'm
for
not gonna
you.
have
What
some
does it have to
person-
do with anything? What does it have to do with anything?
I'm not gonna have you talk down about my intelligence.
Dude,
and
nobody
sit-
has talked down
and
about
be-
your intellect. You're the only one that brought up intellect. Nobody cares. You don't have to do this whole thing where, oh, I'm the smart intellectual black dude. Like, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares.
No,
Nobody
why
cares.
you say- why
Just
you
have
say
the conversation.
black-
Just have the conversation or don't. We don't give a shit what degrees you have or whatever. Nobody cares.
You didn't have to say that.
Yeah, I do.
You
Nobody
do.
cares.
You brought it up.
You brought it up.
What?
Are you kidding?
Bro, you brought it up on the fucking thing as far as like the idea that I'm like intellectually jumping you and then fucking
No, you are the only. Go
I-
back and look at your replies. You used the word intellect first. I did not do that.
I use the word intellect, but you made it about intelligence in that this is where you're saying, oh, you have no impulse control. And I'm like,
That's where I'm playing with you. See, now you're talking about intellectual exercises. I was trolling you because you were being stupid.
Exactly.
So I was trolling you.
I was trolling you first.
That's
I was
fine.
trolling you
That's
first,
absolutely
and you
fine.
tried to troll me back.
That's absolutely fine. I'm
I
not
trolled you
complaining about
first.
that. Yeah,
And
I'm
you
not
tr-
complaining about that. That's
But
fine. I'm telling you though,
but
I
you're trying
had
to
the
say I
option
didn't
to
troll-
mute the whole time.
But you couldn't because I was trolling you. That's the point. If somebody's trolling you, that by definition, if somebody's trolling you, that means you can't ignore it because
Yes,
you're in a
it
situation
does. Because
where you
all
can't
I
really
had to
get away
do,
from it.
all I had to do was click mute, and your notifications.
Well, why
would
didn't you
stop
do
showing.
that? Why didn't you just ignore it?
Didn't I? Okay, first
Why
of all,
didn't you just ignore
your
it?
whole thing of like, why don't you just ignore it as some sort of complete own over every internet discussion is completely retarded.
It's
by
not
the
a
way.
complete
No,
own.
it's
not a
retarded
complete
because
own. I'm asking you.
it's retarded
No,
because
no,
I was
explain to me. Why
specifically
didn't you just
speaking
ignore
to
it?
I was specifically speaking to people who were complaining about harassment online. I was not saying everybody always has to ignore every comment that comes their way. That's completely stupid. If that's the case, why even use social media? You know this. Come on. You want to talk about intellect
Because
and
everybody doesn't
intelligence?
have
You
to
should
be a
know
dick.
this.
Everybody doesn't have to be a dick. Some people choose to be dicks.
Yes,
and some
they do.
people choose to be
Where?
nice.
Bro, can you point to me in the original post?
Dicks,
Point to me in the original
does that
post
stop
where I
you
chose
from
to be
going
a dick.
outside?
Point to me where
Does that stop you from going outside?
No, but
Do
tell
you
me.
stop going outside because people are dicks?
Tell me
So
where
should
in the
people
original
stop going
post.
online?
No, they shouldn't. I never told anyone to stop going online. I'm saying use the tools available to
No,
you
that-
to
then-
get rid of
then-
these people. Muting,
Then
blocking.
you didn't understand the intellectual exercise.
Oh boy.
Because you could have done that.
No, I deliberately chose not to do that.
No, you didn't.
Wait, so I don't have any control over my own
No, you
decisions. Is that what we're talking about? Like, what the fuck?
Apparently not.
What?
Apparently not. Because here's the thing. So like my thing is like what does Naga mean? What does noggin
First
mean?
of all, obviously, it's a humorous stand-in for the word nigga. Okay? Nobody's
why do you
afraid
feel
to say it.
comfortable? Why do you know?
Why do I feel comfortable saying it?
That's what I was
Because
gonna
it's not
ask
a
you.
bad word, and I don't care. I don't
But
care
do you
who
know the
cries
history
about
of the
it.
word? No, nobody's crying about it. Do you know the history of the word?
Would you like to
Do you?
do like a history lesson or something? What are you getting at?
Hey, real quick, I'm just asking you if you know why there's a nigger and a nigga. If you don't
I
understand
know, it's like
why,
a
I'm
reclaiming
asking, do
it
you
and
know-
using it as a term of endearment,
Yes.
brotherhood, whatever. I'm not stupid.
Yes.
I know this.
So
So
if you know that that's the case, why would you then start using it? Even though you know it was meant to be a term of endearment between black people, not to say, because then white people can say it. Of course, obviously, white people can say anything they want. Nobody's saying white people can't say it. But the question is, why would you want to say it when you know what it was meant to do? Because there's a bunch of racist people that hate me, and if you don't want me to be uncomfortable because of those racist people, you would let me have a word with black people. If it was
gotta
like
be completely
making me
honest.
feel
I am
better.
not at all. I don't care at all about the comfort of racial groups. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, come on.
No, you don't care. You don't care about the comfort of anybody. That's the problem.
You're right.
If you thought about the comfort of other people, you'd be a better person. But you're not a good person
Oh no,
because you
I'm
don't
a
think
horrible
about the
person
comfort of other
because I
people.
said nigga.
That's
Do you want
the
me to say
problem.
nigger too? Nigger,
Yes.
nigger.
Oh no.
Like,
No,
who cares?
I don't care.
I don't
care
either.
about that.
Because they're just words.
You're just not a
You're
good
giving
person.
them power
No.
by freaking out over it.
No,
Nobody
no,
cares.
no.
Nobody cares, dude.
I
No
want
one
people to
cares.
be comfortable. I don't say the F word, even though
You mean faggot?
it's not. They reclaim, yeah, because it makes people feel uncomfortable. So it's like I don't say that word because I don't want to say it. I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable because I think about other people's actual being.
Why would
And
I
you don't
give?
do that.
Wait, why would I give
That's
a
all.
shit?
I don't care.
Hold on a second. Why would I give a shit
Because
about people's
that's
feelings
what-
who obviously don't have any modicum of respect for me either? You're conflating
said they
two
don't have
different
respect
things.
for
Do you
you?
think I go? Do you
Who
think
said
I
they don't
go
have
around?
respect for you?
Did you see how you were replying to me? Which, by the way, perfectly fine. I don't care. I don't need your respect. I don't ask for it. I'm just saying, if you're gonna give, be ready to take, and that's what it's about. Do you think I just go around in my personal
Yeah, of
life
course,
just
of course.
insulting my friends that happen to be of different races and stuff? No, of course not.
you
We
know
joke
what?
around, whatever, but we don't insult each other like that. And so it's just so stupid that somebody could conflate somebody's online behavior with trolls with how they are, in reality. It's like, yeah, I just want to run down the street screaming the N-word for fun. No, I don't care. It's just a word. It's a word to me. And I understand why people feel bad about it, but they need to get over it. It's time to move past letting words control our lives.
Look, I can't make you have feelings.
I do have feelings. I want people to be strong enough to rise above that.
Don't act like you have feelings now.
Why?
Don't act like you have feelings now.
How am I completely emotionless because I don't care about offensive terms?
You have no emotions. No, you have no emotions. Don't act like you have emotions now.
Wait a minute.
If you don't care about other people feeling comfortable, you have no emotions.
No, I don't. I don't care about the comfort of random strangers online who are being dicks.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
That's a problem. Wait a minute. Have they considered not being assholes first? What, do they have no responsibility for their own actions?
No. You're talking about the idea that like somebody who's being an asshole to you suddenly is not a real person, and that's a problem. You have issues.
Oh no, they're a person. They're just a person I don't respect, which is perfectly normal. If somebody approaches you with disrespect, do you kiss their ass and respect them? No, you don't. You didn't even approach me with respect.
You think that's normal?
It's holy
because
shit. Go back and look at your behavior. Go back and look at your behavior.
No, I know I was disrespectful as fuck to you, which is why when we started this call,
and I had no previous interactions with you. So why would you expect any kind of respect?
I wasn't asking for respect. I was telling you why I was being a dick.
I'm not saying you're asking for it. I'm saying why would it be expected in any way?
I'm not asking you for respect. I'm not asking you for shit. I'm not asking. I don't want your. I don't fucking care about your respect. I'm telling you that it's fucked up that you don't think about other people and think about the
I think
comfort
about
of
other people.
that
I
aren't
think
your
about people
friends.
who matter.
That's fucked up.
I think about people who matter.
That's fucked up. That you that
Okay, I
people
mean,
who aren't
I'm
your friends
perfectly
don't
fine
matter
with
to
you having that position. Because you obviously are not.
Yeah, of course.
You don't.
I have to
You
deal-
don't
I
buy
have to
into the
deal with people
bullshit
like
you're
you.
saying right now. You do not buy into the bullshit you're saying.
I have
right
to.
now.
I have to look. I have to coexist with people like you. I'm not trying to go out and make you not exist. So I do buy into the bullshit that you quote unquote think I don't buy into. Because if I didn't buy into it, I would fucking try to make you not exist. If I really was like.
What are you
Not
talking
okay
about?
with somebody.
Have I stopped somebody's
Me-
existence? What?
No, I'm saying if I wasn't okay with some fucking idiot not having empathy, not being considerate about the feelings of other
Empathy is
people,
emotional
and I was really not
manipulation.
okay with that, I would try to legislate that out of existence.
Empathy is just
But
another term for
but I'm
emotional
okay.
manipulation.
I'm okay with people being emotionally stunted. I'm okay with people being intellectually stunted. I'm not trying to make you not exist because
here
you
we
can't
go.
understand that other people have feelings.
That's real slick, by the way.
It is. It is. I'm slick as fuck, and I'm glad you called it. I'm slick. Don't you ever forget it.
It's sarcasm.
Don't you ever
It's
forget it.
sarcasm.
No, you called it right. You called it right.
I know. Okay, so the whole idea that you have to be nice to people that are being complete jerks to you is just absurd. First of all, and you don't even believe that because you assumed that I was being, some kind of way, and so you came in there and flew off the handle. So right there, you're not living up to your own standard. Oh, you left? What a bitch. He dropped out. He dropped out after saying, oh man, these people are demented. Okay, well, does anybody even know what that was about? Because honestly, I'm not even sure. He never told me what his issue was with my posts that caused him to fly off the handle. He never told me. He gave some vague thing about like, oh, well, your comment wasn't in a vacuum and you didn't specify. Like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? Did he leave completely or did he just... I don't know what the hell his problem is. Where is this guy? Can I pull him back in? No, I can't. Why would you do that? He's mad that you made fun of the game. This is the crazy part, Hellshake. I did not even make fun of the game. I have not said shit about the quality of the game. All I said was that the demographic it's catering to is relatively small. That's it. That's all I said. And then even the developer came in and misrepresented. And that's when all hell broke loose, is when the developer replied, all his simps came in and replied, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. This is, Twitter, it's social media, it's all public. I'm not complaining. But what I am saying is that there's a double standard, because let's say I was a big game developer and the situation was, reversed. I know that the cliche, what if the roles were reversed? I get it. But if I went to one of their accounts and I replied and then all of my followers dogpiled, they would be crying harassment. So my only point in replying to the developer was that, first of all, if you don't want your works to be assumed that it is, connected with DEI and all that, then you need to be against racial promotion and racial initiatives. Otherwise, you cannot blame the so-called racists speaking out against it. You need to blame your peers who created the environment in which everyone now assumes that anything minority related is there because it was, handpicked for propaganda. But nobody wants to do that. Instead, they want to screech at the trolls and say, oh, look, these people are being racist to me. No, how about you turn your attention to the corporations and all these initiatives and all these assholes in these positions that want to make your identity the focus, use you as a political pawn, but they don't want to do that because they gain too much from it personally. So as long as it benefits them, it's okay. But the moment it doesn't, then it's a problem. It's absurd. It is just absurd that they would rather talk about, random comments and random DMs from nobodies online, anonymous accounts, than the real issues that they're creating. They're creating this backlash by making race the most important thing. And I'm done with it. I mean, not that I was ever in favor of it, but it's just more than ever, it is a pressing issue, and these guys want to come in and make all kinds of excuses for it. Oh, we need it because of this, we need it because of that. I was like, well, no, you don't, because if you're so talented, if you're as talented as you say you are, then you don't need these initiatives. You don't need these stupid programs. Oh, sure, maybe your game, maybe you'll make something great, and maybe it won't get all the success you want. And that's all right, but at least you made something. At least you did it of your own ability. And I know he was saying that the guy funded the game himself or whatever. I don't know how true that is because I didn't look into the entire background. But I will say that people were upset about that game due to the developer's connection to SBI employees and supposedly something about they started a business together. Once again, I didn't look into the whole thing, so I didn't try to go into that. I don't want to speak on it if I don't know exactly what's what. But I know just from a cursory view, that's what people were upset with. And rightfully so. I mean, everybody is sick of this expectation that, diversity is instantly good. It's our greatest strength. All this nonsense. It's tiresome. It's stupid. And it's time to stop. And these guys don't want to take any personal responsibility, as usual. And that's another thing I want to get on for a second, is the whole, everybody reflexively blames white liberals. And I get it. They're terrible people. I agree. But where did these white liberals get the idea that this stuff is offensive? Where were all the white liberals today in my comment section bitching? Nowhere. Because you know what? It was filled with black people complaining about racism. And until we are honest about this, until we are honest that a decent portion of these people are just racially broken, we're not going to get anywhere. You can blame the white liberals all you want. But the fact of the matter is that anybody who follows this ideology needs to be responsible for their actions. I mean, obviously anybody needs to be responsible for their actions in general. But what I'm saying is this this delegation of responsibility when it comes to fighting leftism is ridiculous. Where it's like, we can only blame the white libs. Black people don't really want that. Black people don't really want that. Bullshit. I see black people calling for it every day. Does it mean all? No, of course not. But if you had the slightest bit of brain power, you could deduce that it's not all. It's almost never all. But there is a significant amount that do want these things, and they need to be pushed back against. And blaming other white people is not going to solve it for you. The whole thing is stupid. Let me just look in. I haven't been following everything here. Oh, I do like that the bot finally decided to share comments between Twitter and YouTube. That's pretty cool. Now I can stream on here without worrying that people can't talk to each other. I guess the only thing... No, I guess it still doesn't work in the sense that Twitter people can't see the comments in the YouTube chat. That kind of sucks. Well, that was fun for a moment. I don't know why he ducked out so fast. I had more to talk about. Honestly, I wanted to get into what the reason was for his visceral reaction to my posts that were, quite frankly, inoffensive compared to other things that I've said. He's okay, so he jumped off the call, but he's back in the replies. Going crazy, and he's bragging about victory even though he dropped out. That's just sad, man. Come on, come back in, buddy. Why would you do this to yourself? That's pathetic. There was a drive-by and he had to go. Oh. And there are so many people that just don't understand that no matter how many times they call you racist, it just doesn't matter. As I've seen it said before, they'll call you racist, but they won't call you wrong. And so he's angry. He was a game developer. So he wasn't the developer. He was here basically defending the developer of that Zao game or Zoo or Zao. I don't know how the hell to say it. And then this whole thing of like flexing degrees, we had no nothing in the conversation was relevant to that. I don't care. I'm not impressed. Okay? The way that he was speaking and the way that he was behaving, I mean, to me, I'd say he got a handout. Just calling it like I hear it. And he went on all these tangents that were just not really related. Maybe that's partially my fault for allowing it, but I didn't want to turn it into a, shouting match right away or at all really, but he just kept getting dumber and dumber. So, he really left no choice, especially with the whole thing of like, you couldn't press mute. Really? Couldn't press mute? I'm actually, I shouldn't be, but I'm actually shocked at how stupid. Let me show you guys, in case you're not familiar with what's been going on. I guess I'll try to show you the post. I'll try to pull up the post that created all of this nonsense. Honestly, out of all the posts that I've made, I wouldn't have thought that this one would be one to catch on and cause any controversy, because in my opinion, it's not controversial at all. But let me just log in on a different browser so I don't, completely dox myself, I guess. And then you can all share in the wonder that is Twitter rage. I don't know. I didn't have anything going on at the moment, so even though he jumped out rather quickly, it wasn't too big of a waste of time. Okay, let me see. Let me try to prepare my browser here for sharing. Where are you, Vivaldi? Okay, apparently I've forgotten how to use OBS. No, there it is. Okay, it's just changed since last time. Which one? This one? Okay. All right. I'm going to pull it up now. Here we go. Should be on the screen. So, all I said, let me read this guy. This is Paris or whatever the hell his name is. He says, "This is why black folks are exhausted. We are constantly having to justify everything when all we really want is for our creations and voices to be respected and heard. Abu, like the monkey in Aladdin, makes a game dealing with grief set in African mythology, and as expected, the diversity harassment begins. I'm sure the comments will be filled with whataboutisms and pure chaos, but sadly I'm used to it." Okay, sure you are. So I just said, there's nothing to justify. The game is out. One can make what they want, how they want, so long as they're not co-opting an established series, but it's not owed attention. The simple truth is the demographic interested in works like this is relatively small, which I stand by. I don't think that it's necessarily wrong to say that, some emotional-filled tale of grief combined with African mythology is not going to be like a major mega hit in the Western world. And that's not necessarily an insult to, the work or the settings or anything like that. It's just not as popular as other things. It's made for a more niche audience, and that's okay. People were trying to say that this response didn't really have anything to do with it, but it did, because, as you can see, I was really replying to the having to justify part where he's like, our creations and voices to be respected and heard. I mean, first, nobody owes you any respect. I'm not saying don't be respectful in general, but nobody owes it. And, as far as being heard, you can put your thing out there, but once again, it's not owed attention. You can't control how many people are going to love it, how many people are going to hate it, and how many people are never even going to hear about it. Unless you're working overtime on marketing, which, from what I could tell, didn't really happen very much because, and maybe it was a funding thing, but it didn't really happen because very few people even know about the game. I think the Steam sales, somebody was estimating, the Steam sales said like 11,000, and then somebody was estimating like with other platforms combined, maybe it was 20K. And I mean, that's not bad. I wouldn't be complaining if I made a game and it was got that many sales. But anyway, the post didn't really catch on. It seemed like it was just normal engagement. And then what happened was the developer for the game came to speak on this. I've never encountered this guy before this. Somebody did link me a video. Actually, let me go to that first. Okay, so somebody did link me his video right here. This Damon's Ghost guy, which is fine. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I listened to the beginning, and he was basically saying like, oh, well, people assume, you know, that I'm giving all this stuff because I'm black and I don't deserve the opportunity for my talent, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so my response was anyone who doesn't want assumptions made about them based on race should be against initiatives that promote based on race. Now, if you remember, this guy works with SBI people, so clearly he's not opposed to that. Otherwise, one cannot be surprised when it's assumed that they're chosen for identity over talent. This is what they were warned of. Again, stand by it 100%, because the backlash to this now is getting to the point where people are going to get caught in the crossfire. And while that's an unfortunate reality, you also can't just blame the so-called racists. You have to blame the people that put these things in place in the first place in order to, create this kind of backlash to it. It's not like one day everybody woke up and suddenly decided, you know what, we don't want to see any more black characters in games anymore and movies and all that. Obviously not, because they've been there all along in some capacity. What's happening is people are having a pushback to the forced version, and now it's getting to a point where nobody can tell what's forced and what's not anymore. Which has been stated that, that was going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. But these people are too short-sighted. Not only that, they don't care because their strategy is just to call you racist when you disagree. Now we can go to the developer. Let me find that again. So he says, data doesn't back up your assertion here. I don't recall mentioning specific numbers. I just said relatively small, as in relatively small, within the gaming industry. He also didn't provide any data, so I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about. Also, my video and Paris post doesn't talk about wanting to reach a wider demographic, as you're implying here. I didn't imply that. I said it just doesn't appeal to a wider demographic. He says that's not the goal. That's fine. He says we're talking about harassment. Okay, well, here's how I feel about online harassment. In my response, maybe I don't think I was necessarily mean. I think I was direct. I said the harassment card is overplayed because, as you guys listening know, every time there's a controversy, everybody changes the discourse to the harassment that's going on. You're on the internet, learn to ignore it or block it. My reply is clearly addressing a specific portion of the post. Your video isn't relevant here, but don't be surprised when racial assumptions are made, when racial initiatives are often pushed. Those of us who oppose that, trying to warn this would be the result, but all anyone did was continue to screech about racism for personal gain. If you want to blame someone for the social climate, blame your peers. And then, after this reply, I started getting all kinds of replies from his wonderful fans. So, I added on. I said, by the way, your response seems to have brought out a lot of rude replies on your behalf. Do I now get to claim that you and your ilk are harassing me, or does that only work for a certain demographic? That's okay. Not all of us are interested in playing victim. Which, my point was not to complain that people are replying to me. That's absolutely fine. You can call me whatever names you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying there's a double standard at play here, because if you were being treated that way, you'd call it harassment. But they don't care in this case because they think they're battling evil, which is hilarious because if you go back up to this post and you read what I actually said, it's entirely innocuous. Anyway, that's what sparked the drama. Let me see where the genius popped in here. Here. So he said, learn not to be a harassing douchebag and maybe people will no longer have to complain about harassing douchebags. I said, responding to someone who replied to me isn't harassment. But then look at this. You keep looking and he's spamming. So same way you tell me to ignore it, why don't you just ignore it and move on? he's acting as though my position was to just like ignore everything on social media ever, when that was clearly not the case. Is there more? I don't want to pull up some weird thing. Okay. You know how sometimes there's weird shit in the comments. So I just said, "Are you okay?" Because look at all of the replies that came up within like, I don't know, 1 to 2 minutes of each other. And I get it. He was saying, "Oh, this is my 4D chess intellectual exercise, bro. You can't possibly ignore me." Even though the whole time I could have just clicked mute, obviously. I've muted accounts before that are not worth talking to. May add him to the list, because obviously he's not interested in being a normal person. But if you look at this, does this look to you as though, you know, what he was preaching on the stream, harassing douchebag? Where did I harass anybody? But that was his reply. That was his automatic assumption. He just jumped in out of nowhere and made that statement. And that's what started the whole stupid saga. Which, you know, if nothing else, it made an entertaining short stream, I suppose. But this is the point we're getting to here. And people just, society is so just completely cucked when it comes to all this, you know, terminology, where it's like, "Oh, you said this word, you're the worst person ever." It's whatever. I don't care. I mean, that's stupid. You can't proclaim to be an intellectual and then just be like, "Oh, you're saying slurs." Oh, I don't know. It's just stupid. What did he say that was intellectual, aside from just bragging about degrees that were completely irrelevant to the topic at hand? I tried to be nice in the beginning. I tried to give him a chance to explain what his issue was. He didn't do it. So he had to go. I guess he had to go of his own volition, though, because he decided to jump out for absolutely no reason. I don't know if I should kick the guy out of the Discord now, because he apparently stayed in the Discord. I don't know if we should keep him around. Yeah, you did miss it, but don't worry, the replay will be there. I don't know if I'm going to keep the replay on Twitter. I don't know if these people are childish enough to try to report it for language. I wasn't planning on dropping N-bombs, but he did it first, by the way. And, you know, it is what it is. But it's like, the whole guilt trip thing, they don't know what to do. They just don't know what to do when you don't bow down to it. I mean, you heard it with the whole, like, "Do you know the history of this word? Do you know why we reclaimed it? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're going to say this?" It's like, yeah, bitch, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it loud and say it proud, because you're an idiot and you're trying to control me with guilt, and it doesn't work. How about just be a nice person, be a decent person? You couldn't even do that. That's the crazy part, is they'll come at you and be like, "Human decency," and they're basically like telling you to off yourself in the comments. I mean, obviously in this case I'm being a bit hyperbolic. You saw what he said, but you know, he was insulting. So why am I obligated to then be nice? I'm obligated to then be nice because you're black? Because you can say that something is racist? That's not how it works. You know, these people cry for equality, and then I give them equality by treating them like I'd treat anybody else, and they complain. They call me racist. No, you're just not getting special treatment, and you're not used to that. And that's how it is. And that's why I've completely, you know, I don't go on the defensive when people throw those terms out. It's a waste of time. Absolute waste of time. Well, see, the thing is it's only unacceptable for white people. And the thing is like, you can't do that. You can't create a society where you're like, okay, everybody has to be equal. But no. We have this thing, and it's just for us, and you can never touch that thing. Do you realize what that does? The first reaction when you tell someone not to do something that makes you angry or upsets you in some way, do you know there's someone out there just waiting to pull the trigger on that? You're creating a bigger problem based around the word than there ever would be otherwise. Me personally, I find jokes like alluding to the word funnier than just flat out saying it. That's why I did the whole like NRPG joke. Because to me, that's funny. I know not everybody thinks it's funny, and that's fine. But to treat someone like a villain for making a fun acronym, come on, that's just crazy to me. That's absolutely wild. And so much of the behavior is just ingrained into social media, where it's like, take the L, this was a bad joke. It's like, well, a lot of people liked it. Why do I have to listen to you? I liked it, which was the main purpose, is entertaining myself. If other people happen to be entertained, I'm glad for it. But if not, whatever. And the whole thing, that's another thing. I didn't get to talk about that on stream because I haven't had a stream since then. But a lot of people who even supposedly sided with me often were like, well, not a lot, but a few. Let's be honest. A few were like, well, you know, it's weird that you're making jokes like this, and then on your timeline you're being serious about localization and stuff. It's like, well, how is that weird? Are you not a person? Do you not sometimes joke about things and then sometimes have serious opinions? What is this? I've never purported to be, some sort of like boring ass news account. No, I'm just a guy. I'm just speaking my mind on things. Sometimes I'm dumb, sometimes I'm joking around, sometimes I'm serious. And if you don't like it, well, get off the ride. Nobody's forcing you to follow me. If you decided that you can't take someone's valid points serious because they made a joke somewhere else, that's a you problem. Everything I say still stands. And I'll stand by it on the validity of those arguments. It's not like I'm using the joke as an argument. And then, the only thing I regret about today is that I broke my streak of not having useless arguments. That's it. that I'll admit. That's the only part. Because, lately I've just, as my account has gotten a little bit bigger, not a brag, it's not like it's huge or anything, but when that happens and your posts start to take off a little bit more and more, you get kind of bombarded with notifications, whether it's people agreeing or disagreeing, and I just don't have the time to sit there and entertain everybody's thought. And by the way, a lot of these thoughts are just repeats. It's like they don't read the comments and then they just say the same thing somebody else said, but they expect me to argue with them. It's like, well, if you're really interested in what I have to say, just go read the other argument, because you're probably going to say the same thing as the other guy. And my opinion's not going to change. So for the most part, I've stopped doing that. Today I broke that a little bit just because the developer himself showed up and I knew it was going to be kind of a shit show. I don't know. I don't like getting into the stupid personal arguments with people because it's just silly to me. I don't care about what dumb insults you throw out there. Like, it's fine. Call me names if it makes you feel better. It's just interesting. You're making an RPG. I think it's going to be a hit, personally, because it's going to be the first of its official kind. We'll have to do some promo. I don't know. I just think it's weird to spam and be like, I'm doing an intellectual exercise. And then he just magically disappears when, the heat turns up just a little bit. And that's weird because there's so much projection online. I hate to say it, but there's just so much projection because it almost seems like a cop-out response. But if you really just pay attention to the way that people reply to you or the way they react, they're accusing you of what they're guilty of. I try not to overuse it, but it applies so often. Like, everyone's like, you're mad about this, you're mad about that. It's like, dude, show me the anger in that initial post that you're now calling for my head over, basically. Where is the anger in that post? I don't see it. I just see it as like, I'm telling you, you're expecting something that's just not going to happen. I don't think target demographics are a bad thing. I just don't think you're going to get the kind of maybe the kind of response you're looking for. And I'm just tired of the discussion being co-opted by this stupid harassment narrative. It's it's been happening since the stupid Gamergate days, and obviously not much has changed. And in that regard, a lot of the people that, I hate to do the stupid sides thing, but in the this kind of sphere where it's like one side against the other, or it's usually framed that way, there are a lot of people that still don't understand that you just can't give in to some of these people. You can't, because they want to control you. They put you on the defensive with these accusations. They don't care that you're racist. They just care that calling you that can control you. Because you don't want to be called that. Just, all you have to do is just stop reacting. Don't go on the defensive. Don't go on the defensive. When somebody does that to me, I either talk past it, ignore it, or I show them that handy little post I made for whenever somebody, decides to throw the racism accusation, because it's just tired. I like how somebody screenshotted it back at me too, as though I didn't post it myself. Like I took this screenshot and posted it, and this dude, this secret ninja guy, posted it back at me as though it's like I didn't post it myself 10 minutes earlier. This is the attitude I need to see more people taking, okay? The only way you're going to get through to these people is if you stop bowing to their narrative, you stop acting like this being called racist is the worst thing in the world. Being called any of these ists or phobes is the worst thing in the world. You just got to talk past it and keep speaking the truth on these things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they say. They're going to call you that no matter what your opinion is, merely because you disagree. And that's the way it's been. And that's how they maintained control all this time. And nobody is learning. Well, I say nobody, but a lot of people aren't learning. Some people have. You just got to let it go. Because they're going to think of you what you want just on the basis that you don't think the same way as them. It doesn't matter how nice you are. It's just the fact that you oppose this diversity stuff in any form. Be as nice as you want, they'll still find a way. It's just the fact that you're opposing, DEI or whatever other stupid little loophole they've come up with to promote themselves. As long as you do that, you're on the wrong side of history, and they're going to call you every name in the book, so you might as well just keep speaking your opinion. Be honest. That's all you can do. Be honest. Well, I don't know where else we can go with this. It was fun. I don't think there's too much else going on. It sucks that so many people, they come in hot and they want to, they act like they want to get in on this and then they leave. They leave right away. All right. Well, I appreciate this, guys. I'm thankful that so many people showed up to an impromptu stream. It's actually a lot more than I would have expected since I have not gone live in some time. I know I'm really bad about that lately. If I do come back, it's probably just going to be some game streams. I'm not sure. Obviously, if somebody else wants to talk at some point, we'll try to get a little entertainment in, but a lot of them, they'll spam you for hours, and then when you ask them, they don't want to show up, or they'll do like this guy and that Blue Shoes guy, where they'll come in big, and then it's like after a little while, they're just, you say one thing wrong and they're out. I don't know what the point is. What's the point? And then they still declare some weird victory as though that was a good showing. I don't know. It's not really about winning or losing to me. I just think it's fun. It's entertaining. And you also get to... It's an intellectual exercise. Let's use the words of our opposition here. It's intellectual exercise. I didn't know spamming people on Twitter was an intellectual exercise. I wonder what his thesis was. If What did he have a doctorate in? Social media? Come on. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. And that's about